The places mentioned in the Bible. You know how many places are mentioned in Scripture? Hundreds. How many have read novels and you get across a town that the Lilliputians lived in or someplace like that, and you just know this place doesn't exist, you know? Wouldn't it be neat if you knew the places in the Bible actually existed? There's 15 of them on this stone. Pretty cool, huh? Moab's mentioned 172 times in the Bible. And that's a gimme. Obviously, it's a Moab stone. Dibon, Israel, Ataroth, Sharon, Nebo, Ammon, Beth Banat, Bezor, Beth Medeba, and so on. Really cool. Vindication of location, location, location. All about the places. Let's read a little bit of it. If I black this slide out, can you all come up here now that I've shown you all that deciphering and read this?
With the cheat sheet?
No one, anyone volunteer to do that in this group? Never. I bet you'd surprise yourself, because after a while you start picking it up, you know, really. And I'll tell you, there's a couple of hard parts, a couple of tricks you need to know. Which way do you suppose this is written? I mean, I'm reading left to right here.
Right to left.
How many think right to left? Okay, you guys move to the head of the class. All languages, get this is something cool you can take home with you. All languages east of Israel, of Jerusalem, are typically right to left. All languages west of Israel are typically left to right. How do you suppose that is? Why is this little bitty city so darn important? Why does everything seem to point to Israel? I think it's the main character in the story. I think there's a lot going on here. Pay attention to Israel. Place no bigger than New Jersey hits the front page more than Dallas does, more than a lot of other countries do. Imisha, by the way, it starts over here. Imisha, it doesn't say I. The first word. What's that? I got my own cheat sheet here. Anoke. First word. Anoke. Aleph, Nun, Kuf. Anoke. How do you know? And here's another problem. You Hebrew scholars or Hebrew wannabe scholars, you know they don't put spaces in Hebrew. I hate that. You're reading text and it's just character, 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 character. How do you know when one word stops and another word starts? Duh. Well, Misha here had a scheme. And I didn't know this. I've never seen it before in my life till I started reading this stone. Misha, if it wasn't him, it was Frederick Klein or one of the archaeologists. They put a dot here between every word. See the little periods or dots? So when you come to a dot, that's the end of that word. Pretty cool. I wish the Hebrews had done that. Secondly, you're reading along. Amisha, son of Chemosh, Gad, king of Moab, the Dibonite. Now here's another thing they do. This just tears me up. They'll stop a word right at the end of a line. Look at that. The Dibonite. No hyphens. I mean, yeah, you got to be kidding me. Really? You know why? Because he got to the end of the rock. What's he going to do? Paste a little stone over here? They didn't have whiteout. Once you carve this in the rock, you're done. It's game over, man. You go to the next line and start writing the rest of your word, and then they put the little period right there to let you know there's the real ending of the word. Just because we ran half of it on one line and half of it on the other line, no big deal. My father reigned over Moab 30 years, and I reigned after my father, and I made the high place for Chemosh and Korcha, a high place of here he did it again, deliverance. Chemosh, we'll talk about him in a minute. That was their one all-powerful, mighty pagan god. Because he delivered me from all my enemies. Actually, he didn't. Actually, he drug them into battle, and the Israelites beat the heck out of them. But this is his story. And let me see my desire upon all my haters. Then arose Omri. Okay, here's the first mention of an Israelite king, King Omri. And I'll show you that here in the text here in just a second. King of Israel. Israel is carved into the face of the stone. Pretty cool, huh? And he oppresses Moab many days because Chemosh, that's their god again, was angry with his land, and his son, i.e. Ahab, succeeded him, son of Omri. And of course, Ahab had died too. And he too said, I will oppress Moab in my days. He said this, but I looked upon him, the ruin of him and his house, and Israel perished forever. And Omri had taken possession of the plain. I'm only going to read 15 lines of the stone here. They're about, it gets wordy. There's 34 lines on the text. You don't need to see all of it. This from here down, he's basically padding his story. He's talking about all the cities he built and all the places he conquered and so on and so forth. And he does a little bit of that down here. Down on line 14, these characters they could not decipher, so they've been left unknown. We don't know exactly who that person is or what that name is. And Chemosh said to me, go take Nebo from Israel. And I went by night and fought against it from the dawning of the day, and so on. There is a picture of Chemosh, originally the Canaanite god, and
It's Baal.
what's that?
It's Baal.
The Baals look very similar, and there's another god that almost matches him perfectly,
You know that Baal means
Molech. And what these were, they were human-like torsos and bodies with the heads of a cow, and typically horns. Now, a lot of people think that's why we in our culture get the image of Satan having horns, coming from all these pagan gods that had horns. And that's probably right. That would make sense. But what they did here, now, y'all need to turn on your yuck factor filters. What they did here was they heated these arms out. These are made from here down. These are iron or bronze. They heated those things white hot. And then they would place infants in the hands. And it would just literally fry them alive. And the smell would fill the pagan temples. And they thought that was really going up to Chemosh and honoring him in some way. And it seems hard to say it, but we're not doing much different today. We've got a real hang-up with child sacrifice, whether we put a medical name on it or not. It's just not right. And I'm sure God has the same attitude about how we're doing it versus how they did it. But at any rate, this was their God. And that's the God that they prayed to. Now, this is a cool little piece of text here. See if I've got one more slide of that. That is, can y'all tell me what that says? No. See the Dalits? That's House of David. House David. And then I don't know that character there on the N adds meaning to it, but that's down on line 31. There is the Israeli symbol, the House of David star, the Star of David. You can see the two Dalits real clearly. And now,
because of the Israel and Judah became one country.
perhaps, and one was above and one was below, so they would have flipped over. You got to pay attention to God. He's not only into mathematics, he's into geometry. He's into trigonometry. He's into all kinds of stuff. You know, strangely enough, the way Carl and I met, I used to have a team of engineers at the plant in Temple, the Texas Instrument plant, and I was in charge of the mechanical engineering department. And we had a supercomputer, and that was pretty hot stuff back then. Mark's got some notebooks that outrun it today, but back then that was big stuff. And it was like, I forget, it was something like 150, 1,500 megaflops. It was a pretty fast machine back then. Anyway, Carl knew we could do 3D modeling. And we were modeling some pretty big structures. We had modeled some things as large as a football field on this computer. So he called me up one day. I was sitting at my desk. He said, "Larry, are you sitting down?" Like he does a lot of times. I said, "Yes." He said, "I would like for you to model something on your computer for me." I said, "I'm all ears, Carl. Hit me with it." We got the machine for it. I said, "What is it?" He said, "The universe." You know, when you lay out the planet Earth and then you start just putting in the other planets, you got to zoom out on the screen with your mouse for like 10 minutes before you get to the next planet. And we're talking universe, not just solar system, universe. Well, anyway, that was one of the things that got us kicked off. That was, we more little rubber wheels on the mouse trying to get out to the other things that the computer was obviously comprehending because they just keep adding zeros to the distance, but you could never get it on a display screen. It was interesting.